Okay, Dr. Furman. No steak, no eggs. It sounds so unpatriotic, you know? Like un-American. How do you go to a restaurant? You've told me before you could get something at just about any place. Is that right? What do you do when you go to a restaurant and that's all that's there?
Well, the idea is to realize what foods are hurting you, and you just avoid those. And you can avoid those at most any restaurant. If you're going out to eat, they always have a salad. Of course, you have to ask them not to put cheese on it because they're going to put cheese on it. But if you're in a situation like that, you can always get a salad with salmon, grilled salmon or grilled chicken, something like that.
Okay, so fair enough. You mentioned cheese, and there's a lot of it in the American diet. Is that correct?
A lot.
Okay, so some people that I've talked to, they go, "Oh, well, you lost me there." I could follow it, but if you say no cheese, you know, I'm out. Is it an addiction?
It is definitely an addiction, and as I tried to explain, the only way, it's like some lady asked me, well, what if I eat low-fat cheese? And I didn't tell her about the cigarette on Saturday night, but as long as you keep that desire for cheese or whatever, you're gonna stay addicted. You've got to beat the desire. Ice cream's the same way. I used to like cheese and ice cream.
You just got some, there. I heard it.
No, wait a minute. I hope there's no ice cream people in it, but cheese and ice cream are my two favorite.
Are you kidding? No ice cream people here?
No, I mean that sell ice cream.
Okay.
So, but I thought, hey, fat-free yogurt had just come out. I said, okay, I'll just start eating fat-free yogurt. And so every night we'd go get some, and then we were at somebody's home, and they brought some ice cream for dessert, and I realized the same desire for that ice cream hadn't changed at all. So like I said, for 2 months, abstain. I quit eating even the fat-free yogurt. I quit anything related to the ice cream. I quit. Then it got where, okay, if I wanted fat-free yogurt, I'd go get it. But you've got to.
So you're saying the desire can go away. You're saying you can actually lose the craving that you have for things. Is that correct?
Exactly. I'll give you a quick example.
Yep.
I told you about the 10-minute factor. You can do this on losing weight. You can do it on certain foods.
What does that mean, the 10-minute factor? Just explain that really quick.
What it says, I learned it from a fellow in Alaska who had he had beat the addiction of drugs and cigarettes, and he said that he did it 10 minutes at a time. And alcohol. He had 3 addictions. Huh. And you can control an addiction for about 10 minutes. So we switched this over to losing weight or not eating something. When you want a snack, you want an Oreo, which they've got new little thin Oreos now, but when you want one, you say, okay, I'm not going to eat that for 10 minutes. You go get a non-caloric drink. Don't care what it is, you drink it, you fill your stomach, and then you get doing something else. Had a patient that I operated on. We thought he had lung cancer, but he didn't. He was a smoker, and I was explaining to him, if you don't quit smoking, he smoked 2 packs a day, brown fingers, and I said, you're going to get lung cancer. And I said, if a truck was coming down the hill in the front of the office in the road, and you were standing in the road, you'd get out of the road, wouldn't you? And he said, yeah. So anyway, I explained that 10-minute factor. When you want to smoke, don't smoke for 10 minutes. I said it works. A year later, I'm in the hall between patients, and the nurse comes up and says, there's a gentleman here who wants to see you. He had on a baseball cap and work clothes, and I was busy, and okay, he doesn't have an appointment, I'll see him in the hall. He walks up, smiles, shakes my hand, and he says, it's been a year today. He said, 10 minutes. He said, after you talked to me about that 10-minute factor, he said, I put my cigarettes on the dashboard of my truck, and every time I wanted one, I didn't smoke it for 10 minutes and do something else. He said after 2 or 3 months, he pitched them out. He said, it's been a year today.
Wow.
It works, but what makes it work is you realizing what we've just been discussing tonight.
Yeah.
You've got to beat the desire. You put the desire on the scale and put actuality, what it's going to do to your body on the other scale, and it ought to do that.
You get victory 10 minutes at a time.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to throw something out at you. It goes like this. Well, we're all going to die. Look, so you talk about life expectancy, a few more years, and somebody will say, well, who wants to live any more years on this earth? And we're all going to die. I've even heard this, find out what you like and let it kill you.
Now, that's a good argument, but go ahead.
So respond to that, doctor.
Well, the bottom line is the quality of your years are so much more important than the number of your years. We've talked about it extending your life expectancy. Forget all of that. Forget you're going to live one day more. That doesn't matter. What matters is from the quality of your life from now until the day you die. I had a fellow tell me, he was in his late 70s, he exercised, and I said, why do you do it? And he said, I want to be active when I die. And that's the whole point. It's not the last 10 years of your life you're sitting there staring around at the wall or something. It's you're active. You want to be vibrant.
Yeah, 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
It would feel like 100 years, I suppose, if that's the case. Okay, so you made a comment a moment ago. You used the word commitment. Mm-hmm. What about just making a decision? People hear this and go, yeah, I think that's good. I think I'm going to decide I'm going to do something about my health. What's the difference between a decision and a commitment?
Well, there's really a lot of people decide they need to lose weight. A lot of people decide to lose weight. But until you commit, it isn't going to happen. See, a decision is a change in the mind, where a commitment is a change in the heart. And unless you really have a change in your heart, like when you decided you were going to lose some weight, or when I tried on third year in a row, I'd gotten bigger size pants. That day I decided, I committed, hey, I'm going to get back to what I weighed when I got out of high school. So just remember, to decide, a decision is of the mind, but a commitment is of the heart.
Okay, so let me just tell you one of the reasons I like this book, because it's like truth straight up. It's like in your face truth. You're not dancing around. You present the medical facts. It's not trying to sell people on a new fad or a new diet. Right. It's kind of like you read it and you go, oh, that's the stuff my mom told me. You know, stay active, go outside and play, eat the right kind of foods, don't eat too much. And what's interesting about it is it's not about calories, right? It's about choices.
It's not, I've never counted calories, and I don't tell you to count calories in there, but you need to know which foods, fruits and vegetables, give you the most full feeling of any food with the least amount of calories. I've eaten a couple of meals with Skip, well, 3 meals. We've had 3 salads, but we've had some chicken on some and some other. But the idea is your whole lifestyle of eating will change, and it will center around what food you eat rather than how many calories in the food. You
recommend 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day?
Right.
What does that mean, servings? How much is that?
Well, I'm trying to get somebody to start eating fruit for snacks or start eating fruit on their cereal. I consider, I get 3 servings of fruit every morning with my cereal. I put blueberries, strawberries, and bananas. Some mornings a serving of bananas is a half a banana if my wife I only have 1 left or something. And when she's gone, maybe a third of a banana will be. But I don't make a big deal on serving. Just get in the habit of eating fruit, even if it's just a handful of blueberries.
Okay, but somebody will say, well, there's sugar in fruit. I mean, there's fructose in fruit, and so, sugar's bad for you.
Well, sugar is bad for you, and sugar can affect your arteries, but not like the saturated fat and the trans fat. But this type of diet, you're not going to have to worry about the extra sugar. on that.
Okay. You co-founded World Medical Mission some years ago. We have a picture I think we're going to throw up that shows what it was like. Okay, so here's a photograph of Dick Furman, Bob Pierce, and that's Franklin Graham on the right with the beard. So how many years ago was that?
That was in 1978. That was the first year we started World Medical Mission. Bob Pierce was alive and kicking. He had cancer, but he was still traveling.
So, doing what you do, being who you are, you have traveled the world and you've done surgeries and medical work in countries all around the world. Of all the countries you've visited, that means you've held hearts and arteries in your hands on a number of different continents. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What's the healthiest place you've visited when you look inside a human body? Is that a fair question to ask? Is there a diet that you've just been amazed at?
Yeah.
That, wow, that's healthy. And then what is the most unhealthy place that you have visited?
There are a lot of unhealthy places. Most places that have adopted the American lifestyle of eating, you're going to have unhealthy people. And there's reports all over that when they start eating our way, they get unhealthy. But I'll tell you, there are two places that I've seen the healthiest. One was in Africa, and one was in New Guinea. And the areas in Africa, I'll never forget. First time I operated over there, I opened up the abdomen, and I don't even remember what the procedure was, but I remember feeling the iliac artery. That's the artery after the aorta divides and goes down each leg. And it felt like a baby's artery.
Huh.
I mean, it just is soft and pliable. And back in Boone, you feel down there and it feels like a pipe. You know, that it got all that plaque in it. I mean, it's not unusual at all to feel plaque in those arteries, especially where the aorta divides. So then I realized then that had to be, why was that? And then you start realizing they were eating fruits and vegetables basically, and they'd kill a pig or something a couple times a year for celebrating something, but mainly they didn't eat much of the bad fat. The other was in New Guinea, where they live basically on sweet potatoes, different kinds of sweet potatoes. And studies have been done on both of those. Their total cholesterol is 150, averaged out. You don't have heart attacks when it's 150. I never saw a heart attack in either of those places.
Okay,
like
what's
that.
the most unhealthy country you've done surgery in?
Probably, I'll say India, but it's just certain people in India, the affluent. It seems to go the more affluent, the worse people eat.
The more affluent, the richer a person is, they eat rich food.
Yeah. And
Is that right?
That's correct. And you bring those people, the same people, from Japan or wherever to America, then you see the study them 15 years later, and they're getting the same problems.
Okay, so let me talk about that. You said, okay, somebody's in Japan and they move to America. So when they come from Japan, is the diet good in Japan?
Mostly is good in Japan.
Okay, so when they come to America, you're saying
They're changing their diet.
they're changing their diet so
Yeah.
they become less healthy?
Yeah, they get into the same numbers I've just been talking to you about. And there are numerous papers, especially on the Japanese. I don't know how they got started on the Japanese moving to America and eating American diet. But the bottom line is that once you realize what food causes those splinters to get into your artery, you'll have less and less desire. And then the day will come when you've overcome the desire for the bad food that you're actually wanting the good food because you want a healthy body.
So you want to load up your bloodstream with policemen to arrest the bad guys.
That's right.
To put them in jail, your liver, right?
Right.
So the bad guys, that's LDL cholesterol. The good guys is hero.
The hero.
Is that right?
That's right.
So you want to put as many police officers in your body as you can. Otherwise, the criminals are going to take over.
That's right. That happens. And the one thing that most Americans don't realize, it gets me, the statin takers. And I've discussed this with friends that are doctors. They'll take a statin and just keep eating whatever they want. Well, and they get their cholesterol back, and it's below 100, so they're okay. But they don't realize there's more than just that LDL number that we get back. There's a lot of other LDL particles that we're not actually understanding what it is. Plus, that statin is not strengthening the heart. It's not raising the HDL that helps the heart.
So you're saying there's a certain kind of cholesterol you are trying to get in your body, and that's HDL cholesterol.
HDL.
That's good stuff. So cholesterol isn't all bad. There's just certain bad types, and that's the LDL.
That's right.
Did I get it right?
You're there.
Okay.
I wanted to say for once, but I wasn't going to say that. But yeah, you're there.
Okay. You said something a little bit ago that was, you just said it and then you moved on, but it's too staggering to just pass up. You said over half of Americans, half of all Americans will die because of heart disease. Is that what you said?
Over half of Americans will die from
Related?
disease, heart attacks or strokes.
That's unreal.
But the thing is that those LDL particles, they don't pick and choose what arteries they're going into. So they're going to get in the brain just as much as they are in the heart.
Okay.
And to me, a stroke is worse than a heart attack. And I think Alzheimer's is worse than a stroke because it affects so many other people, family members and all. But there's a lot of relation to dementia with the arteries and with the arteries of the heart and the brain. Yeah, over half of Americans that can avoid that, and if they've had a heart attack, they can help avoid having a second one. So that's the significance.
Dick, do you mind if I ask you your age?
No.
Okay, how old are you?
Well, in Nepal, we were trapped. You heard
Is
about...
this you not answering the question, or?
You heard about the second earthquake. We were 3 kilometers from the second earthquake. There were 3 of us doctors. We were hiking. And we got trapped in this village with rock slides. And we had to stay there 2 days, 1 night. We got to know them pretty well. And so one of the doctors had all the men in the village and said, "How old do you think he is?" And here was the spread, 55 to 60. So I explained, I'm going to take 58 as my physiological age, and I didn't tell him how old I was. I'm 75.
You're 75.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're physiologically?
Chronologically.
Chronologically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you're 75 years young, and
But I'm a year younger than Franklin physiologically.
okay,
Franklin Graham.
You just told on Franklin Graham.
No,
So
no.
you're a year younger physiologically, but chronologically you are
10 years older. But we went to Cooper Clinic. I know Rich is running over time, but
we're doing good.
This is worth it, though. He talked me into going to Cooper Clinic.
That's in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas, and they do they study your arteries, everything, treadmills. So when they got at the end of the day, they set you down and go over it. And so they said, Dr. Furman, we want to congratulate you. He said, you're in the, and they said, listen to this next word, above. You're in the above 99th percentile, cardiac-wise, and physiologically, you're a year younger than your buddy. So I've never let him live that down, but I was telling Skip that was the moment that I realized that all of this stuff that we've written in Prescription for Life is real. Until that time, I knew I felt better, I knew I felt younger and doing things, but I didn't know physiologically if it was medically sound until I went to Cooper Clinic, and they were the ones that said, you're a year younger. So that's 11 years physiologically.
And I've ridden motorcycles with you, and I've been on long rides. You're a good rider. You're a hard rider. I mean, you're on it. And I've done 500 miles on a motorcycle with you. You get off the motorcycle, and then you go work out in the gym or you go running.
You need to do 3 miles a day. That's what I'm trying to get him doing. He's only doing 3 days a week, but every day every day you need to do it at least 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you the way I look at it. I don't like to jog. I don't like to run. I don't like to get on that treadmill. But I look at it as taking my medicine. Rather than taking that statin drug or taking something, I look at it, I'm gonna go get on there for half an hour. I'm gonna run. And I feel so good when I get through.
Yes.
But
when you quit.
I look at it as but we do ride and then run.
Okay, so in your book you mentioned a guy named Jack LaLanne. Have you all heard of him, Jack LaLanne? So he was in his day an exercise kind of a guru, right?
Yeah.
He stayed pretty fit. But somebody asked him an interesting question. I just want you to talk a little bit about it. I think they asked him, so Jack, when did you start enjoying exercise? Is that right?
This was on Fox and Friends. On his 90th birthday, he walked on the stage. You know, they introduced him, and he does all of this, and he starts walking over, and they congratulate him and talked about it, and they asked him his age, and he said, "None of your business." They were going to get, but anyway.
I'm glad you didn't say that to me a minute ago.
But at the end, one of the girls said, "We're so glad. It's good to see somebody that's enjoyed exercising all their life and has done all this." And he said, "Enjoyed?" He said, "I hate exercising." He said, "I don't enjoy it." He said, "But I know it's good for me, and I do it."
Wow. That's good to hear somebody like that say that, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's a little bit freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate it too, but I do it. One final thing, and then we're going to close. You tell a story about a man, I forget where this was at, but he was standing in front of you talking. He was a little overweight, and he said, "You know, Dr. Furman, I get these dizzy spells from time to time and kind of like fuzziness and dizziness." And you said, "Just stay where you're at." And you felt his pulse on his carotid arteries.
Yeah.
And there was no pulse.
Yeah.
So you knew that his brain wasn't being fed anteriorly, but posteriorly.
Yeah.
Right, from the back.
Yeah.
Now, tell us the rest of the story.
Well, this was a politician in Alaska, and Franklin Graham and I had gone over to his house, and we spent several hours with him, and got ready to go. We walked down to the lake, and he was he started telling about he was having these little dizzy spells, and while we were talking, I just felt of his carotid, because I knew that if he had blockage of his carotid, I made part of my living by cleaning out those carotid arteries. It's a fun operation, and you don't have to go very deep, and you do a lot of good. But I thought, well, he's going to need a carotid endarterectomy, get those plaques. And you can feel, if it's a significant blockage, sometimes you can feel what's called a thrill, where the blood twirls. You can actually feel it. So while we were talking, I couldn't feel a thrill. I couldn't feel a pulse. So we kept talking. I said, well, he's completely blocked that one. Once it's completely blocked, you can't operate on it. So we kept talking, and I felt the other side, and there was no pulse. And so I knew that the only blood he was getting to his brain was through two little, like, the little straws like you stir up your coffee with. There's two little arteries back there. The big arteries, the carotids, give 95%. That's just very, so I knew he wasn't. I told Franklin as we left. I told him, you better see your doctor when you go into town. But I knew there was nothing could be done. And I told Franklin as we left, I said, within the next 2 months, that politician will be dead. And about 6 weeks later, he had a stroke, and that was it. But he
died then.
He died then. But that's the problem. You don't want to wait on symptoms. And that's what Prescription for Life is all about, is about prevention. You don't want to ever have to go to the doctor with symptoms. And this just tells you how to prevent it before it happens.
Well, Doc, thanks for coming all the way from North Carolina to share your book and to share that with us, and all the years of research and good that you've done this world, operations around the world and missions. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
It's good. It's good being here.
Hey, we're going to close in prayer. Would you mind praying as we close?
Sure. Father, we come to you tonight. We just thank you for every single person here, and we just look to you for your guidance in our lives, and we just pray that we will use you and that you will use us and for the rest of our lives. And I just pray that you'll help each of us to stay as healthy as possible for the one reason that we may serve you longer, we can be more active for
Yes.
you longer. And we're just, we want to say thank you.
Thank you,
For
Lord.
this gift of our health and our bodies that you've given us. And I just hold this up to you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.